Welcome to the Keep Us Safe training, which the government wants us to do. And every church in Australia is doing something like this. So we will just go, all right?
Sounds good.
So at the front there, you can see that it should say Volunteers Training number 1. There's 2 documents, so we'll do this one after the other. All right, so basically we're reading through documents. You can see there the different definitions of what it means by a child or vulnerable person. And all of you have WWVP cards, so you are familiar with this term. Page 2, the guidelines. We have a kids' church program here and a youth group program, and we ensure that they are given the best possible environment for positive relationships and to prevent the risk of child abuse. And we want the volunteers to be aware, this is you and me, so we know what things to look for. And also we need to do reporting of any abuse. That verse in 1 Corinthians 13 talks about love always protects. And that word protects, it also could be covers or preserves. So we are wanting to protect children. Another great verse is Isaiah 25 verse 4. And it says that God is a defense for the helpless and the needy. He is a shelter. And all of us, the number one thing we do in kids' church and youth is we are protecting the youth, we are sheltering, we are giving them refuge and help. Okay, WWVP card, you already have one. Over the page 2, prevention. So, what would you do if a 5-year-old child wants to use the toilet? Nerida, what's the procedure?
We would take them to this toilet here because they're not leaving the kids' church environment, and a teacher would stay out and they would go to the toilet themselves.
Yes, so the room is not big enough for the child to go in by themselves. The teacher would stay at the door, the leader. And for older children, what would you do, Anselm, for primary school age? Year 5 student says, I need to go to the bathroom. What do you do?
The kid will be led to the place, to the bathroom, and the teacher can stay out the door. But sometimes, at least from my experience, if the teacher is too busy because the child is a little bit old enough, the child can be led to the place and be expected to come back.
Okay. The best thing for us to do is to use this bathroom here.
Oh, okay.
Even for old children. They go there, shut the door, make sure there's no one there, and you can
Stand outside or come
stand
back.
outside, or because it's right there with the young kids, you can come back.
Oh, cool.
That one out there is more public toilet, so if you take a child there, you must stay with them, because anybody could use that toilet. We don't know, maybe they've been waiting in there for a child. Okay, number 5. So the answer to number 4 is that we take the child to the children's toilet here. All right. Number 5. What do you do if a nappy has to be changed? It doesn't happen in youth very much, right? Maybe 3 times each week. Very often.
Yeah, call the
What?
parents.
Yes. Only parents change nappies. Thank you, God. Number 6. What should happen when a child or young person behaves in an unacceptable way? What would you do if a young person and youth is running around and hitting people, knocking people, throwing something at somebody? What would you do, Gabriella?
I think I would call the child aside and try to talk to them and understand what is happening, what is going on, and if the kid's not like comfortable with us, comfortable with the situation, we try to call the parent and see if the parent can pick it up.
Anything else from the kids' church? Do you think that you would do the same thing, Blink? Take the child aside, find out what the problem is. If it's still a problem, call the parents.
I think I will talk to the kids. If he or she is not listening, I think I will send him to the little one.
Okay, we will take them to the side and then we talk to them and maybe we are sitting with that child. Now we have a leader sitting with the child. For the younger, we're talking about the primary school children. If there's still a problem, then we ask for parents to come and to help us. And maybe they need to take the child, maybe they need to come and take the child home. So we don't send them to a small room. We take them just to the side and be with a leader. If it's still difficult, we get the parent. Nerida, anything you want to add to that?
I would make sure I don't use a threatening tone. It would be firm but calming,
Calm
not
voice.
shouting, not
Yes,
angry.
that's right. Are you okay with that, Bling? Okay. Okay, number 7. What would happen after youth night when a young person has not been picked up? You have one child left and their parents haven't come. What would you do, Diogo?
First of all, we would call the parents, try to call them. And we know that when you are with a kid in the car, it has to be 2 leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can take them in case the parents don't show up.
If you have parents' permission, yes, 2 leaders. Otherwise, you must stay here for the parents until they come, and you must have 2 leaders stay.
Okay.
And then when the parent arrives, you charge them $50 for waiting for them. Not really.
We had in the past a situation with a girl of 16 years old, and she lived like nearby, I think just across the road, and she said to us that her mother
Allows
her to go walking.
her.
We have to have this written somewhere.
It's better if you speak to the mother and one of you has heard it for yourself. It's not just the child saying. Because, ultimately all of this is legal as well as practical. So it's easy to let her go, but if there's a problem, then it becomes a legal problem. Who said you could let my daughter go? She told me. But she's only a child. You don't believe a child. It's not permission. So then it's best if you say to the girl, okay, next week I'll let you walk home, but today your mother has to come and get you, or she must call me and tell me it's okay. Yeah. And the similar thing with the kids here. If the kid is late, if a parent doesn't come and pick up at kids' church, somebody must go and get the parent or talk to the parent to get them to come. All right, and we stay with the child until they do. Number 8. Oh, you don't have numbers. Sorry. If somebody like a child or a leader makes some comments that sounds a little bit sexual, there's probably more likely something happening in youth than kids' church. But what would you do, Diogo? You walk past a leader and you think...
What's the question, sorry?
If you walk past a leader talking to a young person or some kids, and the leader says something and you think you hear them, they say, wow, you are growing into be a beautiful woman. It's just a little bit on the edge of what leaders should be talking about, don't you think?
Yeah.
So what would you say to the leader?
I would call the leader aside because to avoid talking in front of the kid as well. And
Good.
say that to avoid talking about those things and give like a professional behavior or something.
One thing that happened in the past as well, I came to a group that they were talking about something that I didn't know exactly what, but when I came, the girls, like 2 girls, were talking about boyfriends. And we had one of the leaders like listening to them, and he wasn't encouraging them to have boyfriends, but he wasn't saying the opposite as well. The leader, he wasn't saying the opposite for the girls. So when I came into that group, I started talking about God's standards for relationships, just trying to change a little bit the subject, because I think they were too young to think about relationships, because they were like 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah, good.
And
Did you speak to the leader as well?
I didn't afterwards, but like it was a thing that I didn't feel comfortable with.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Anytime you're not comfortable with something that is being said, then you must act and say no. And even if you are a leader and you hear another leader, you don't have to be the boss of the youth or the boss of the kids' church. You can just say to someone, did I hear you talking about this girl would look beautiful in a bikini? Did you say that? Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I don't think it's all right for us to talk about that. So you can have that discussion. If you're not comfortable with that, then you can go to the leader and say, I think I heard him talk about that girl wearing a bikini. I don't know. And then the leader can go and have the conversation if you're uncomfortable. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so number dot. You have dots. Okay, now there's a stranger hanging around the kids' church or the youth. What do you think you would do if you saw somebody, it's not a parent, it's somebody you never saw before, and you don't even think they have a child in the kids' church? What would you say to them?
I'll ask them what they're doing here.
Yeah, that's right.
That's my first.
Very good. And you can be very friendly. Say, oh, hi, how are you? My name's... And can I help you? Oh, yes, my sister comes to this church and she says the kids' church is great. I just want to have a quick look. Say, oh, okay. Yeah, well, we have this meeting here, we do this there, then we go to the classroom, and then we finish. Yeah. Actually, I have to ask you just to leave once you have a quick look. Can I ask you just to go back to the auditorium because we have a policy that only parents are allowed in here, and children and leaders. So, and just be very friendly about it. Just sorry, that's just our policy. Same as the youth. Any questions? Okay, what would you do if a child or a young person said that their parents were punishing them by locking them in the bathroom every night, had to sleep on the bathroom floor or something like that? What would you do, Diogo?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to do anything with the kid right in the moment.
Yes.
Because it's about their family. But I think I would contact our pastors
Yes.
and let them know about the problem.
Very good. That's a correct answer. And then, Nerida, if one of these leaders tells you about that, you can tell me, and I would then decide what to do next. And at my school, we had this happen. I found out one of the parents said, this new girl, she's always smelling like urine. And I followed her out to her father's car one afternoon, and the father's car smelled, and the father's car was full of clothes and pillows and things. And I said, where is your girl, where are you sleeping? Where is your house? He said, actually we're sleeping in the car. Oh. I said, well, I have to get you help. Would you like some help? And he said, I don't know what to do. We don't have a house. I said, okay, well, if you give me permission, I'll get some help for you. Now, if he said to me, no, it's none of your business, don't do anything, I still would make the phone call to the Child and Community Services, and I'd ask them, what should I do next? And then we had a situation where I went to the government department, and they said, leave it with us. We will have the contact with the parents and the child, and we will handle it from here. Other times they said, actually, we would like to speak to the child. Can we meet at school? And so that's what will happen next if you tell the leader about this sort of situation. Okay, any questions? Okay, the last dot on the page. Why are programs run in spaces with high visibility, do you think, Anselm? High visibility means you can see everybody. No walls. Why do we do that?
Yeah, I think it's because for safety reasons.
Safety?
Yeah, and safety and security reasons.
What do you mean security?
Like, because if they are not, if they are tight spaces, and any thing like what we just talked about, like when
Secret
the leader talks
conversations.
about maybe sexually suggestive comments and stuff like that, it can't really hide in
That's good.
places with high visibility. Yeah.
Exactly, that's the reason. So, of course, we have the classrooms, and we should always have many people together, not just one leader, one student. Same with youth, of course. You never want to say, you have to be careful that you don't say, oh, Sally, can you come with me to the storeroom? I need you to help me get something. No, you need to say, Sally and David, can you both come, please? Or, at least 2 people with you. Never by yourself.
Can I ask a question? Sometimes, like every Friday, we run some kind of games.
Yeah.
But there are some games that we have to,
Hiding in the cupboard.
and sometimes the light
Off.
turn the lights off.
Yeah.
What is the name of the game?
Oh yeah, I
Like
don't know the
When
name.
someone hides and everyone has to see.
Hiding.
Yeah, is that okay? Because they
I
love, well, like we cannot control what's happening when they are
Yeah,
hiding
everybody's
and when
in the
it's
same place at
dark.
the same time, but they are hiding
and we
themselves.
cannot see because it's dark.
Yeah,
So like,
Yeah, well, with youth, you have to, ultimately this comes down to you as the leaders. You should know which youth you can trust and which youth you're not sure. But you can protect all of the youth by having some simple rules. So, for example, you can say, okay, everybody, we're going to hide, but you cannot hide by yourself. If you're a boy, you need to hide with another boy. Girl, you must hide with another girl. So you have at least 2 of them together. I think it changes the game a little bit. It's a little bit tighter, the rules, but it's safer to make a rule like that. Yeah, I think it's okay to still play hide and seek. Young people need to have that excitement. But you can also, I know that we used to do the same thing in my primary school, and at night have a sleepover, turn the lights off, and I could say you can hide anywhere in the primary school, just you cannot go outside the building. So I would say, okay, if you are, if anything happens that you are not comfortable, I want you to tell me straight away if you're not comfortable. And by the way, this is a time limit of to 8 minutes or something. If we can't find everybody in 8 minutes, if 8 minutes comes, then I'll blow the horn or the whistle or something, and everyone must come back straight away and count the kids. So you have some safety like that. Any other comment?
The other comment I would have loved to make regarding that is, but I don't know, some games, like, because there are heaps of other games, heaps of games. So as long as, maybe as the leader, you just have any little feeling that you're not really comfortable with this particular kind of game, like this one you mentioned, as long as you're not comfortable with it, it's enough reason to stop it.
Correct.
Because there are heaps of other games.
Yeah.
So
Is that
that's
a good
just my
answer?
comment. Yeah.
That's a good answer for you.
yeah.
I think you can make some slight changes to the rules so that you are feeling more comfortable. But if it's still a problem, then would you let your daughter do it? That's a question. Yeah. Okay. Increased awareness. There are 3 main situations where we need to be more aware of safety. If you're concerned about any behaviours, that is the first time when you are, or somebody said something, obviously you want to listen and listen very carefully. Number 2, you want to watch how everybody is relating in a team, because sometimes if you have, all the boys are in one team, all the girls in the other team, sometimes the boys as a team can be a bit more dangerous. Now all the boys have to throw the balls over the fence, over the net, and the girls have to catch the balls when the boys throw it too hard. Says, okay, boys, you need to be a little bit, all of you must throw with your left hand, not your right hand, or some rule like that. Yeah. So that's another time to be aware with the teams, and then we want this idea of absolute transparency is the same as high visibility. It means that everything is in the open. There are no secrets. There are no private places. We don't have, even when this happens with kids as well as teenagers, is that sometimes 2 girls want to have a whispering together. And so we have a rule, had a rule at school at school, no whispering. You are friends with everybody. And if you have a special friend, that's great. You can talk on the phone tonight. But right at school, there's no whispering. And same thing in kids' church today and youth. All right.
This is important to our leaders to know.
Leaders as well. Yeah. Well, if leaders see two kids, ideally we want to say, look, come to youth for everyone to mix together. I know you two, you're very good friends, that's great. But I need you to play with everybody, not just with each other, and not just talking with each other. Yeah. All right. Why do you think... Okay, so it says here, it means ensuring that team members do not do these things. Private conversation, long conversation with one person, or talking to them on the telephone, time alone with one person, building a special relationship with one child, making plans to see the child outside of youth or outside of kids' church. So why do we want that not to happen? What's the obvious reason? Narita?
That's creating a situation where you can create like an unhealthy relationship.
Yes, that's right. So all of this is about not just about avoiding unhealthy relationships, it's also avoiding looking like we have an unhealthy relationship. You know, you might be talking to this person about soccer, about football or something, but everybody else is saying, oh, he's always talking to this one. Why is he always talking to him? It's like a special friend or something, you know. So you don't want that. So you talk to him about soccer for 2 minutes, then you talk to him about basketball, then you talk to her about school. And everything is spread around evenly. Okay, so that answers the next question then. Why is touching children or young people sometimes not appropriate?
Is it supposed to say not appropriate?
Why is touching children and young people sometimes... why is it sometimes appropriate? Why is it sometimes
appropriate?
Sometimes it's inappropriate, sometimes it's appropriate. So why is it sometimes appropriate to touch a young child or a young person?
To show affection.
Exactly. So, great to see you. Yeah, to show affection, to welcome somebody, to make them feel human contact. In this church, we don't want to stop human contact. We want to have good human contact, and we'll talk some more about that as well. Okay, there is some contact that is appropriate and some that is not appropriate. And we'll talk about some examples of that in a second. Okay, if you observe something that you were not comfortable, you saw a leader is hugging a child for 3 minutes, you know, and it just didn't feel right. So, what happens next, Anselm?
I could actually...
What do you do when you see this?
Yeah, I could let the leader know later, not right there in the middle of the situation now, a few minutes after, maybe much later. It could be probably after that service. Yeah, so I could actually talk to that leader in a very mature manner and make the leader understand that I felt you hugged that person for a little longer than normal.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, but not talking right there.
Okay,
Much
I'll
later.
show you how you do it. Stand up, stand there. You are holding a child right there. Right, holding a child. Yeah, very good. And I notice. So I came over and hey, Anselm, can I just see you for a second? See. I just need to talk to Anselm. Can I see you for a second? Yeah. Just remember the rule about hugging. We just hug for maybe 6 seconds maximum, maybe 5 seconds. Okay, Kids Church. And that it might be very innocent. That might be Anselm's cousin or his nephew, and he hasn't seen him for 2 weeks. So it's great to see you. But at kids' church, we have to be seen. Everybody's looking, and everyone must feel comfortable. Maybe another parent comes in, they come into kids' church and they see Anselm cuddling a kid for 2 minutes. They don't know he's his nephew or something, so they get worried, and of course, it can cause a problem. So we don't want to make a bad relationship with the child, but also we don't want the reputation of this to be bad, and also we don't want to do anything that is going to cause legal problems for you or for the church. Okay. All right, the next one, disclosure. Okay, I'm going to give you these answers. The disclosure must be treated with priority. That's the word there, priority. In other words, if a child tells you something about bad treatment in their family or from a leader or from another child, you must take it very seriously. You don't say, oh, off you go and play, go and play. You say, oh, what? Okay, let me listen. Tell me what happened. B, the leader should listen carefully and not ask for extra information. Okay, because this can cause a legal problem if it comes out that we were putting words in the child's mouth. So I only let the child speak. C, the leader should demonstrate control of emotions. All right, so he shouldn't be going, oh, really? Oh, what? And just keep very calm. D, no attempt should be made to do what? Have a guess.
Contact parents.
I think contacting the parents may be appropriate, but maybe not by the leader, maybe by the kids' church leader. But the answer there is you are not a counsellor, so you don't give any counsel to the child. That means you just listen to what the child says and then you don't try to fix it. You don't give the child advice. You just say, okay, thank you for telling me. The child or young person should be informed that they are supported and that they have done the right thing in talking. The F, the leader should acknowledge that these situations can be very hard to talk about. You can say to the child, wow, you're very brave to tell me that. Thank you for telling me that. You've done the right thing. And we'll look after, we'll take that information and see what we can do. G, you don't have to investigate. So if the child says, oh yeah, my parents locked me in the laundry last night and they've done that every Saturday night, you don't have to go to the parents and say, oh, the child just said that you're locking them in the laundry. There's a process we must follow. Okay, you tell the leader. H, the child or young person who is disclosing should be assured of support and that any abuse is not their fault. Okay, it's okay. You are not to blame for this. So we will take it from here. I, the child or young person should know that other responsible adults will be informed and the situation will be stopped. Okay, we're going to tell some people and they're going to help the situation and it won't happen. We will make sure it stops soon. The child or young person should not be made to repeat the story over and over and over. Okay, come with me. Come now, we'll talk to this person now, or talk to that person. No. Though one person is enough, you say, okay, it's fine. The person being disclosed to must write down what they've been told as soon as possible while the information is still fresh. I spoke to Sally. She said that last night she was locked in the laundry. Her parents do this every Saturday and she's very sad about it. Yes, that's everything she told me. Great. Okay, I've got it. Go to the leader and say, this is what happened. And then the matter should not be discussed with anyone else apart from upline to your leader. Number 17, or the next paragraph says, under no circumstances should staff or volunteers try to assess or investigate because, again, it causes legal problems in the future, which we don't want to have. Okay, other children are being nasty to each other. We've already gone through this, so what is the process there's a space there, just before suicide awareness, it says, in the space below, outline the steps that a disrespectful child or young person might experience. So let's just remind ourselves, what happens if you see a child hurting another child or poking another child, elbowing, punching, what is the process?
Have to interrupt
Interrupt it, then
and
take that child to the side.
tell what is right to be done. And I'll ask to apologize.
Good.
And
And try and get them back. Okay, do you promise that this will not happen anymore? Great. Now, if it happens again, we take them and said, now, I already spoke to you, and you went back and did it again. So now we have to separate the child, and we say, now, I want you to stay with me now. You stay with me for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then, if you are really good and I feel like I can trust you, I'll let you go back. But if I don't trust you, then I won't let you go back. And then, if you can't trust them, and then you get the parents to come in. So we have a warning, and then we have removal, separation, and then we have parents. That's the process. Okay. Physical behaviours. All right. I want to, suicide, sorry. Suicide awareness. All right. Now, this is not really something for kids' church, but more for youth. What would you do if a young person says to you, I'm thinking about killing myself? What would you do, Diogo?
First of all, I think we would spend more time talking to the kid to understand what's happening. Talk to the parents and let them know that that conversation happened, and let the kid know that we would have that conversation with the parents. And after that, the parents has to decide what to do.
Okay. Now, with suicide, when someone's, it's like, have you ever, do you know what happens on an airplane or coming onto an airplane if anybody says bomb? Do you know what happens?
No.
Even if you are waiting in the airport to get on your plane, if you joke with somebody about having a bomb, and the airline Qantas person hears you say that, what will they do?
Shut down.
Well, they will not let you on the plane. You say, I was just joking. Sorry, we have to take all your bags off and check all your bags. And it will be your cost for this, and you have to buy another ticket. Because you don't say bomb. And the same thing with suicide. I know there's some churches, if anyone says suicide, I want to kill myself, they call an ambulance straight away. Yeah. They say, okay, serious, call ambulance. In our church, Amanda's a fantastic person for counselling advice. And I mean, I'm just talking about, for young people, if they say the word suicide, I want to kill myself, what's the procedure that you recommend?
So we always take suicide seriously, whether it's kind of thrown about or whether it's within the context of a kind of a deeper conversation. We always follow through. So even if they don't use the word suicide, even if you have kind of an awareness that something's not quite right, or they're alluding to not being around, or things changing or wanting to hurt themselves, we always ask the question. We always ask the question. So sometimes that can be a really difficult thing to do because people are afraid that if you ask the question, it's going to kind of push people to do something to themselves, but it doesn't. It doesn't.
How do you word the question?
So there's kind of a really quick risk assessment. What we would do in a risk assessment is ask 3 really quick questions. The first one is, are you considering hurting yourself or taking your own life? So we are blunt, we are clear in what we're asking. Yeah? Sometimes it can be better to use that term, taking your own life, as opposed to suicide. It's just a softer kind of way of asking the question. If someone says, yes, I am, then the very next question, the follow-up question is, if you were to do that, how would you do it? So if you were to hurt yourself right now or take your own life, how would you try to do that? And that establishes what we call the plan. So the first is intent, the second is the plan. So if that individual was to say, well, I'd swallow a whole bunch of pills, the very next question is, do you have access any pills.
Can you get any pills?
Can you get any pills, or do you have any in your home? If they say, yep, I've got a bunch of pills in my cabinet back home, then that is what we would consider the positive answer to those 3 questions, a very, very high risk. And you would not leave that individual or break contact with that individual until help has been found for them. Yeah? So we need to be really clear on asking those questions. We don't kind of beat around the bush. And it's always about ensuring that that person, we get help in and get safety in a hopeful way.
Yes.
That we're communicating that there is hope, there is a way to get help for you. And that what you're considering is, a very permanent response to a temporary issue, which kind of feels really big right now, but is a temporary issue.
So these guys running youth,
Yep.
they get 3 positive answers. Someone's going to stay with that person.
Yep.
Who do they ask for help?
Yep, so depending on the kind of situation, if the parents are known to you, then they would, if it's a youth situation, then they would be a first point of call. Keeping in mind that when someone has reached the point where they're considering suicide and where they've communicated that, we no longer need their consent to do something about it. We don't have to have consent, we don't have to have their permission. We can break that to get help for them. It's the kind of one of the situations where we no longer need their permission. So contacting their parents, if we know their parents are going to be helpful, at the end of the day, that child, contacting their parents will ensure that that child stays safe for the next period of time until their parents can get them help. They need help. So we wouldn't just send a kid home to go to parents and then, maybe we'll deal with it, maybe we won't. They need help. Otherwise, we contact what's called the Crisis Assessment and Treatment Team, the CAT team. This is a team specifically for this task. So they, unfortunately, are incredibly overburdened. And if you are sitting with that person, they will triage them as a lower priority because they are safe, because they're with you. Okay, so you're looking at hours of waiting to see the CAT team.
So you'd be likely to send the parents to the emergency department?
The emergency department is the other option. So either you take the child or the parents, whoever it is that you release them into the care of, take the child to the emergency department. They'll be assessed by the same CAT team, but at least they'll be sitting in the hospital waiting as opposed to anywhere else.
Is it the 002?
No, there's a 1-800 number. I can tell it to you if you'd like. So we need to make sure we never leave that person, and even if it's their parents that we bring in, because obviously their parents aren't the help that they need
Long term,
the help they need right then, we need to make sure the parents are aware that their child needs professional help from this point. It's not just a matter of going home and having a good sleep. They need help. The other thing to keep in mind about the nature of suicide or the nature of suicidality is that it goes through peaks and troughs of intensity. So we know that when someone is feeling suicidal, that generally speaking, the intensest part of that lasts for usually only about 15 minutes. So if we can sit with someone and be kind to them and be empathic and be just with them for that period of time, generally speaking, there will be a de-escalation of what they're experiencing. Not to the point where they're fine, happy, joy, life goes on, but it'll bring them down to the point where they're not quite so desperate. And so that's a really important part of what we can offer people.
15 minutes.
15 minutes in general. So I'm looking for the CAT. The number is 1-800 629 354.
354.
Put it in your phone.
Yes. If everyone on the youth team should have that number, in an emergency, you can ring them and ask them what they think you should do next, as well, if you forget all the other information that Amanda's told you. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
Amanda is a wonderful person to contact for any counselling question you might have. All right, appropriate touching is the last thing on page 7, but I just want to mention that. So, come out here, please, Anselm. Okay. With a child, there are some parts that are appropriate. I'm not going to touch you inappropriately. I'll only touch the good spots. Already you know one. Handshake. It's great. Just for a few seconds. Now, the African people, they like to hold on their hand for half an hour.
No, I'm one of those that doesn't like handshakes actually.
Oh, really?
Yes, you're right.
Sometimes they do. But it's just generally 4 or 5 seconds maximum. And then shoulder, how are you? You doing well? It's great to see you. Top of the shoulder, side of the shoulder, upper arm, how are you? Great. That's appropriate places. And if a child is sad and they are young, then of course you can give a cuddle, maybe 5 seconds. Okay, it's going to be okay. Do you want me to get mum? Okay, I'll get mum. Okay, can you go get mum? I'll just stay here with her, or whatever situation. Or if you say, or if a child is a little bit scared, a bit nervous, first time visitor, you don't want to be making them more nervous by touching them too much. So you'd say, oh, it's okay. I'll get someone who's a friend to be your friend, special friend today. John, could you look after Anselm? He's never been here before, so can you be a special friend for him? Or if somebody is sad, you know this child, they've been here every week to youth or whatever, and they are feeling a bit sad because their best friend didn't talk to them today or something. You say, oh, it's okay, it's going to be all right. You know, a bit of slapping. This is the most of a hug that you need to give. Okay, was that all felt comfortable? Yeah. So that's the appropriate. Inappropriate touching is anything else. Okay, so even carrying piggyback, for a leader to do that, starting to get a little bit for contact, a little bit too much contact. Because you're only touching one child. You know, if you can give everybody piggyback for 2 seconds, it's not so bad, but I would still say at kids' church and youth, avoid that. Any type of massaging, no. Any type of giving one child special attention more than anyone else. We already talked about that. Wrestling. Any child who is over 3 years old, you don't want them to be sitting in your lap on the chair or sitting on the floor. Up to 3 years old, it's okay. But after that, it starts to get uncomfortable for the parents who are watching. I come into kids' church and see my child is sitting on a leader. It doesn't feel right. Yeah. So whatever would not feel right for you and your child, you don't do it. Okay. And also we mentioned the sexual comments. Okay. We finished one. And now this one is only 2 pages, so we will do this super fast. Some of this is repeated, so it's not too much. Aren't you glad that we're not doing this for another hour and a half? Okay. So on the front there.
A quick question. So can we touch the head?
Oh, I should mention that. Thank you. So I think it's okay a little, but you see some cultures touching the head is not considered polite.
Maybe because I've lived in New Zealand and we do have some islanders here, so you have to at least know who you're dealing with. Islanders like Maoris, Tongans, Fiji, everyone from that side, the head is sacred, so you can't really touch their head. So
Because today I have a little girl asked me to plait her hair, and I did it.
Yes. I think, how old is she? Maybe
I think it's 5 years old.
5 years old. Yeah. I think plaiting the hair of a 5-year-old girl is okay, but it's better to say, oh, why didn't you get your mum to do that? Why didn't you get your older sister or something? And you can say, look, I'll put it in a ponytail. Finished. Plaiting takes a long time, you know, so it's not so bad, but also you have other kids that you are the leader of, and now you're plaiting. It means you can't be the leader for other kids, so probably best.
And another quick question: what happens in a case where you're the leader, you know, in teaching the kids, and some are being very playful, wanting to jump on your back, be around you, and stuff like that? What happens?
If you have 3 or 4 kids trying to climb on you when you're on the floor or something, and they're on your back, maybe you can do that for 30 seconds, and then say, okay, lad, you have to hop off me now. Now, kids will think, ha, keep going. And so then you have to say, okay, really, no, off, and you have to sometimes say, But you are too nice, you see, so it's hard for you to do that. So my wife calls it my principal voice. She says, I'm scared of your principal's voice. Because I said to her, oh, stop touching me. Not really. Okay, so we have adopted the standard. It's called the Child Safe SP3. So, all right. The idea down the bottom, leadership can involve exercising power and influence. What is power and influence? Merida?
I think sometimes it means being a role model. It can be a positive thing to inspire people.
Yes.
And sometimes it means sort of manipulating people to do what you want them to do.
Very good. So we need to know the difference. Now, the answer to the first one is that you have, if you're a leader, you have authority from the church. Actually, Melanie and I say, please, you have authority. You have our authority. You can act as if you are us with that child. So when the child picks up the chair to throw at another child, you can say, put that down. And you can order the child to do it. That is using your power and your authority. And if the child does not put the chair down and you're worried that somebody will be hurt, you can grab the child. That's the only time. Because you're protecting everyone else. You say, I said put it down. So hold their hand, let go of the chair. Right, now, you must come with me. Because you didn't do what I told you to do. We must take you to your mum and dad right now. Okay, next one, role model, same thing. Being a role model, you show the children how to act. So we have a new child here, so we are nice to the new child. We have a birthday here, so we say happy birthday. We have somebody is wanting to pray, so we join them and we pray. We are setting the example. Language. We have to be careful of the joke that we tell. All right, we want to make sure that the joke is not hurting anybody. Some kids can get offended because a leader makes a joke about people who drive Holden car or something. And say, well, my parents have a Holden car. It's not funny to me. So you have to be careful about what the joke is. I think you guys know that. So trying to be funny doesn't mean putting someone down and you are so ugly. No. We are always making laughter that makes people feel good. Physical contact. Okay, we've already talked about physical contact enough. So we turn the page to page 3. All right. Any activity that could be seen as some sort of sexual activity should not be done. Same as what we've talked about before. I just mentioned an example of a circumstance where physical restraint might be needed. Can you think of any other example where you might need to hold a child to stop them doing something?
If they're going to hurt themselves?
Yeah.
Like if I have children trying to run out the gate out the back or something like that?
Very good. If they try to hurt themselves, try to hurt another person, try to break something. So they're just, I don't like this, kids hurt, I'll pull this down. No, you don't you stop doing that. Let go, don't touch it. Walk away. Thank you, please, have a seat. You can be that little bit stronger. And if they're not letting go, you can say, okay, can you help me please? Okay, I asked you not to do that please, so you must let go. Okay, come with me, pull them off. Okay, I need you to sit down here please. You have the right to do that if they're going to hurt themselves, another person, or break something. Stop touching the computer. I told you not to touch the computer, or whatever, because we don't want you to break it. Some kids have been trained to do it. That's fine, but you haven't been trained. So wait till you're trained before you touch it. Program style. The activities chosen will speak loudly about the values of the church. So when we're choosing activities, all of these activities in Kids Church are chosen for you, but what sort of activities do we want, would you say, in church? Because we want them to reflect our values. So what's an activity that we don't do in our church, do you think? because it doesn't suit our values. Can you think of any example? Well, for example, in kids' church, we don't just turn the movie on and leave the kids here watching a movie for an hour. Why not? It might be a nice movie, but why don't we do it?
It's not building relationship.
Doesn't build relationship. Relationship's important. It's not that fun. You know, kids are not, he is not having fun with him, they're just laughing at the movie. So we want activity to be something that is building what we want. Sometimes with youth, you know, everybody's just playing a game, they're all tired, they're like, okay, let's watch something funny. So we're doing a sleepover where, you know, 1 hour can be movie, whatever. But generally speaking, we want to focus on activities that are building fun and relationship and that sort of thing, character. And movies is not so much that. It says there, night games, wide games need to be managed carefully. So you're taking the kids to YWAM to play a game. What's some of the risks for you to play on the oval over there? What do you have to manage?
They can hurt themselves with some kind of stuff.
Yeah, true. Just to get there, they must cross two
They can
roads.
disappear.
They can disappear. You lose a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to plan for that. When we had take the kids for school to a campsite, we played a running game at night. You have to make sure there's no trees with branches at eye level. You know? Oh. No glass on the ground. Yeah. Okay. Cultural awareness. We just talked about head touching because for some people it's offensive. You know, in Fiji they don't like you point, when you sit cross-legged, they don't like you point your feet at the leader. I went to a meeting in a house in Fiji. I said, your feet pointing at the chief's feet, don't point your feet. Anyway, probably we'll find out about those ones if it's important for the person. All right, we don't want any activity that will be difficult for someone from a different culture or race or something. In my school, we used to ask the girls to wear shorts for PE and sport because otherwise they can't play some of the games. It's too embarrassing for them if they're wearing a dress. And same thing with you. You're going to play a game over there? Okay, girls, I want you all in wearing jeans for this Friday night or whatever. Special needs. For people with special needs, it is important to be INC. What do you think the word is? Inclusive, including, yeah. So we want to find an activity that everybody can do. Okay, so what do? You're about to go and play over there and you have a kid come and they've got crutches. What are you going to do about that? How can they be joining in? Crutches, you know, they've got 2 sticks here because they broke their leg. And
We have to make sure that this person is going to be part of the game somehow.
Somehow, yeah. So maybe they can help you to be the referee. Okay, I want you to stand there. You tell me if anyone comes, and then you tell me if they touch the tree or whatever the game is. Okay, seeing that each person. Okay, what about PRO? What does the PRO stand for?
Proactive.
Proactive, yes. Proactive means planning. It just means planning. Okay, we have 2 kids who are very scared of the dark. Okay, what can we do in the game tonight? Oh, we'll let them take a torch. They can have a torch each. Nobody else. You know, that's okay. So you plan something. And then create. What is it? Create. Creative, yes. Come up with some idea to suit. Okay, privacy in social media. We have to be careful on the dot points there about photographs of children. Make sure before you put them on church Instagram that you have parents' permission to do that. We don't take them home. If we are forced to, we must have 2 leaders in the car, like Diogo said before. Communication with the child should be open. We talked about that. Children and young people should not be taken home outside the program. That's a repeat of the previous point. The use of social media can pose dangers, so we have to be very careful about what we do on social media. Sometimes a leader needs to have 2 social media Facebook pages. One private one and one for the youth. That way you don't get it mixed up and talking about issues that shouldn't be. Why do you think these points are important for you as a leader about social media and privacy? Why is it important for you, Blink, to be careful about privacy? What do you think is important about that?
Maybe the family doesn't like that
Very
child
good.
be seen in the social media.
Very good, excellent. Yeah, and once it's on, it can never get off. Somebody has the picture somewhere. So we had situations in my school where, you put a photo up of a child and then they say, oh, I don't like that photo, it makes me look terrible, I look fat. And you put it up on the screen, everybody has it, you try and get rid of it. Then someone comes out, I found your photo yesterday, I took a screenshot. Ah! Okay, last question. Okay, I will send those statements to you about the conduct agreements. And so you don't have to do anything about that yet. It's just little things like you will sign the form saying you give $700 to Paul Marshall, things like that. Thank you everybody for coming.